Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going to be talking about breakpoints. Now, breakpoints are just different variations of your grid based off of sizes of the screen. So I have a bunch of different sizes here. As you can see, I have small, which is kind of like a tablet, and we have medium, we have large, and then extra large, maybe some 1400 pixel width screens. So I'm going to get into the reasoning as to why we create these types of breakpoints. Now, we need to always keep breakpoints in mind when designing for responsive layouts. That means, web-based layouts that are going to be able to be used on like mobile screens all the way to very large websites or very large resolutions. So as you notice, based off of our little demonstration around fixed and fluid grids, content will stretch and shrink depending on the screen size. And that is fine. We can't run away from this, but don't worry, we can work around this. So breakpoints allow us to scale up and down our design from mobile to desktops. So we have this is kind of like tablet. So we can have like a mobile screen as well. Now, the first step is to definitely establish a set of breakpoints, and I wouldn't worry too much. There's a bunch of literature out there about certain breakpoints, and what works best here is like just a set of breakpoints to get us started. These are based off of David Gilbertson's article. Now, this is the small, medium, large, extra large. At small, I have, just for this one, I have around, the max width is 599 pixels. I will usually have a smaller version as well if I really want to get into it. But this one even can, work for things like the iPhone 13, which I think is like a 390. So, this could work for that screen as well. It's really up to preference. At medium, I have anything between 600 pixels and 899 pixels. At large, I have anything from 900 pixels to pretty much 1200 pixels. And then at extra large, I have, so this one's at 1400 pixels in width. And these are basic types of layout grids I have for that. So as you notice, extra large and large both will have pretty much 12 column grids, but here is where we start to break it down a bit. Like maybe we don't need that many on like tablet, and we can, afford to go down in the amount of columns because there isn't much content that needs to be placed along there, or the layout just doesn't get as complex. Now, these breakpoints are going to help you define these small, medium, and large breakpoints, and you can definitely modify your layout grid to change dramatically based off of the breakpoint, or you can change it slightly. So let's take a look at what we got here. Now, these 4 frames, and you'll notice that each frame has a slightly different layout depending on the size of the screen as well. So, content may shift, blocks may pop down. Over here, we have 3 column layout for these items, and that's what you need to think about when it comes to responsiveness, because we want to ensure that this content is going to either stack on top of one another or some content's going to get removed, because it will happen, especially when you get down to the smaller screens and you start losing some of that horizontal space. Now, these are all fluid layouts. So if I start to stretch that frame, the content's going to stretch with it. And even the mobile version, we'll notice that even when we get to that medium break point over here, this is kind of like our mobile version. We're going to notice that that frame and content will start adhering to this design. So like if I start scaling up, then I'm going to ensure that, okay, this row of content, performs in a certain way where maybe it stacks, or now we have enough space to have like 2 large blocks or something like that. So just keep that in mind. Now, I know I mentioned things like, okay, when we get to larger screens, we need to start thinking about like bigger margins, and you can come in here and do that pretty easily just by saying you want a center margin, and then you can specify the actual width. And, you can say that each column is, I don't know, let's find a number that works. It could be like 80 pixels. And all this content can shrink down. And then now we have like, that grid that's going to work really nicely here. And then these are just going to be at center for the constraints, so they stick with that grid. So definitely a lot of options here. This is what I would do once I start getting to extra large, because I don't like things totally like touching the edge of the screen. So definitely, I would employ that tactic. But that's how you start making breakpoints, because you will need to design for different screens based off of the type of product you're building. If it's a website, you definitely need to do something like this.